Welcome to Opinions No One Asked For, the podcast where we dive into the chaos, the cringe, and the clarity of high school life. I'm Emma, your host, and this is my senior project. But more than that, it's a space to laugh, learn, and reflect on the roller coaster that has been the last 4 years. Each episode, I'll be joined by a fellow high schooler who have also navigated this wild journey alongside me. Together, we'll tackle stereotypes, share personal stories, and open up about mental health struggles, embarrassing moments, and lessons we've learned the hard way. Think of it as a time capsule of memories, mistakes, and everything in between. So grab your headphones, buckle up, and get ready for some honest, unfiltered, and occasionally unsolicited opinions. This is Opinions No One Asked For, a podcast about the stories that shaped us from the people who lived them. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Opinions No One Asked For. Today we have special guest Shea.
Hello.
And in honor of Valentine's Day and love, we're going to talk about some self-care and some self-love today because it's really important. Shea, for the listeners, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello. My name is Shea. I'm a senior at Sohegan. I love school. I love this high school. And, I'm pretty involved. I do sports. I've done soccer all 4 years. I've done Alpine, which is ending actually tomorrow. And then, I'm in ethics.
I love that for you. Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about, your personal life, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure. So I have 3 siblings. My older sister is a freshman in college. My younger sister is a freshman in high school, and my brother is in 5th grade. So I'm, the older middle. I've lived in Amherst for, a long time, and, basically just, going to school, seeing everyone. That's basically my life.
Yeah, and could you tell us a little bit about your passions? Is it in your extracurriculars with soccer and Alpine?
Yeah, so for soccer, I've been doing it since pretty much all my life. I had a club from when I was really young, and that pretty much continued until freshman year, and then I stopped playing club for 1 or 2 years. And then I recently, as in last year, I found another club and joined it. And it was a really awesome experience for me because I had never done just a club by myself where I didn't know anyone else. And all those girls, it was a mix. We were playing against older girls because it had to be within the age cap. So it was a lot of tough teams playing against each other. But it was awesome. It was probably one of the best things I've ever done for myself because I went into it knowing literally one girl, and I've never done anything like that before. So that's starting up again now, and I haven't been able to go to any of the practices, but I'm super excited for that. But last year, we graduated a bunch of seniors, so it's definitely going to be a different team, and I don't think I'm going to know a lot of the girls this year either. So it should be fun, but I'm a little not nervous, but I'm, anxious to start, and I think that it's going to be another good experience for me, but I'm definitely going to miss some of the girls that are in college now because I, got to know them, but, very surface. You're just seeing them, once or twice a week.
Do you ever have you thought of playing soccer further after high school?
Yeah, I think you kind of start thinking about that type of stuff. It's kind of introduced as an idea when you're a freshman, and you're should I kind of explore that further? And I think for me, I always knew that soccer was kind of just something I did for school, but it's never really been more than that for me.
Yeah.
And honestly, I haven't really found anything that's been more than that for me, that's taken up all my life. And I think that that's actually for me kind of a really good way to explore other things, and it's been a good way for me to not put so much pressure on myself to apply all of my time to doing one thing. And especially this year, that's been one thing that has helped with not having burnout is
that balance.
Applying my time to different things and never letting something account for so much of my life where I just can't get to other things. And in past years, I've kind of let that be school because my parents think of school as school's your one job while you're in it. So try as hard as you can. And obviously that's true. For anyone listening, try as hard as you can in school. But it gets to a point where, like, sometimes to try as hard as you can in school, you need to take a break from school.
Definitely.
Like, and that's definitely one thing that I've kind of been practicing more this year, like thinking about going into college or something else next year. I think it's more about the habits that you build than like crushing it your senior year. Like,
Yeah.
I think crushing it your senior year is more about like, who am I as a person? Like, how do I work? And if you know yourself better your senior year, I think you're better off than just like buckling down and just like doing your schoolwork.
No, I love that. That's awesome. Where did you like learn to have this balance? Is this something that like parents might have taught you or like someone else?
Yeah, I mean, my mom is really into like wellness, but her way of doing things is like a lot different than mine. Like, she was always like a big runner growing up, and I tried to get into that, and like sometimes I still do it, but it's never really been like, oh, I love running as much as she does. Like, she would run marathons and like do all that. And my dad kind of had this attitude about work where it's like his like idea about work is that he goes to work so that he can like live a better life and just come home, and like that's why he works, is so that he can not work. You know what I mean?
Like that provider instinct.
Yeah. So, but he also, I mean, I think, so my mom stays home, and she stayed home. She used to be a teacher, but she stayed home, like, and obviously she has 4 kids. So, and my parents are awesome. And I think their whole thing is like to be well, but honestly for me, like finding my routine and everything has always been a challenge. And I think more recently, I've just been able to apply more time to like thinking about what my routine is. And so finding like my way of doing things has honestly been a recent thing.
I like that. Could you tell us a little bit about your routine?
Sure. So I think sometimes I think that getting into like the routine of just like school and like sports, it's honestly a lot of time, and then you just have so much work and you just kind of get a little bit mindless about it. And so for my senior spring, I've decided not to do any sports, and alpine skiing is awesome, and it's like a couple days a week, so it's not as high commitment as like some of these other sports. And so I honestly have more time to like be at home, and like I've never really had that before, so I think that's a big part of it. But I just been paying attention to more like sleeping and like getting into that schedule, because I feel like that's the foundation of like your day. So if you chunk out like your night and you're like, okay, well, for these hours I can't do anything because I'm going to be sleeping, and then you're like, okay, well, I could just do that for my day too. And I don't know why, but for me that just never really clicked until recently. So I've been kind of like trying out different things. Like, I did yoga for a couple weeks.
Ooh.
But and like I could still do that, but my mom gifted my sister and I like a 30-day like yoga thing. So we did that. And that was more around like Christmas time. And I do like it, but I was thinking like, what can I do that I could just do for myself? And like, it's not super expensive, and could be something that I could do anyway. Like, I don't need money for it. I just need time. And so I've been like walking. I'm like, listen, if I can just walk for an hour a day,
good for
and
you.
just do that, then honestly, number one, it's a great way to procrastinate your homework because you're doing nothing, but you're doing something. And that's honestly a big part of why I do it. And so I started doing that and just like see how long I can do it for. And I'm still doing it. I think it's been like 20 days that I've been doing that.
Good for you.
Thank you. And I think also just, and then in doing that, I've just been like trying to eat breakfast every day, which I was like in and out of doing. But I think really the baseline is that when you do something for a couple days in a row and you're like, listen, my day feels a little better when I do this. I think that's a sign to like keep doing it.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, you know what I mean? And especially if that makes your day like quicker, like if it goes by and you're like, I feel like I did something today. That's a good thing. That's a good practice to keep doing. And I just feel like having time to do that, to like lay that foundation, has just been so awesome for me because I never really had that before and I didn't really know what that felt like to like be like, listen, I'm going to do this like for myself.
Yes.
And I've seen like other people do that. I think people get into routine, but for me, it's always been hard to get into routine. And I think it's just, it takes time to learn about yourself and like see what feels good and what doesn't. You know what I mean?
Wow, I'm learning like so much about myself, and I'm thinking about my routine, and I'm like, okay, wake up, go to school, clubs after school, sports after school,
Yeah.
go to bed.
It's crazy.
I am horrible at overbooking myself, so this is making me more conscientious of my little flaws with that. But with your walking, is it like outside walking, inside walking, like a treadmill?
Yeah, a treadmill right now. But I'm hoping to, like, as the springtime goes, like, I'm hoping to get outside more. But I like the treadmill because it honestly gives me like a consistent pace just to like go.
Yeah.
Because I do love a nature walk. But I find that sometimes, which is not a bad thing, I definitely go over time, and then that can be a little bit like, because I'm a big Sunday girl for my school. Yeah, I think that's just like, if I can just set aside one hour at least of my day, then I think it just puts me more at ease because it kind of shows me like how long it will take if I have to schedule 1 hour out. Then it's like, listen, you can't be waiting until the night to do your walk if you're going to start your homework after the walk. Like it's those little promises that I think once you start keeping them to yourself, like you just become more like secure, I feel, because you kind of know what your day is going to be like. And for me, I think that decreases my anxiety about like just like going through it. But yeah, I think another thing also to like our little habits we can add is that I was sleeping terribly. This is why I started to like sleep better. Is because like around Christmas break, it's so easy to just like disregard everything about like your sleep schedule, like just stay up at ridiculous hours. And I was sleeping with my phone, like I don't have a bedside table, so I was literally sleeping with my phone like on my bed. And I was like, what am I doing right now? Like I was staying up so late for no reason. And I was like, this is killing me because I would go to school the next day and be like, what am I doing here? Like I need to go home. So I switched and I was like, listen, this cannot be a problem for me. It's such an easy fix. Like you just have to, I leave my phone downstairs.
Love that for you.
Yeah. So I like.
Wait, what, do you have like an alarm clock?
Yeah, and then I got an alarm clock.
Okay.
Go to Walmart and get like the cheapest alarm clock. I promise it'll change your life. Even if you don't even use an alarm, like just to have the time. Like you don't need your phone. And so I put my phone downstairs and I like set all the limits and stuff. So I can't go on my phone. I think it shuts off at 10 and then it comes back on at 7 in the morning. But like, I mean, obviously I can kind of like fiddle with it to like get more time, but I try not to. But then I'm just like, I put my phone downstairs and then I just go upstairs and that's just my phone free space. And I just, take a shower, do the skincare, do everything. And that's like about an hour. And then I just go to bed. And then I'm not on my phone an hour before I go to bed. So I can just go to sleep.
That is better because the blue light messes.
Yeah.
Wow, that is so like not 2020 like 5 of you, and I love that.
Yeah. I mean, listen, like when it comes down to it, there's just some things like self-restraint. You have to just not. And that's honestly hard. Like saying that you're not going to do something and then like you don't know how you're not going to do it. I think that's just like the killer. And that was a killer for me. Like I honestly, because then once you're upstairs and then you're just so tired and you're like, I can't go downstairs again. Like
True.
I just
yeah. No, I'm bad. I'll be so tired, but then my bed's right next to me because that's my alarm. And my phone's like right next to my bed. So I'll grab my phone. Literally, I think it was like a couple mornings ago, like 6 a.m. I just started writing emails. Like I had stuff to do, and I was like, all right, time to do stuff.
I know.
Oh, you're making me like, I need to do this.
I mean, listen, everyone has their own things, and like if you can figure out what is right for you, and then also I think just like it's one thing. I think everyone's had that moment where you're like, okay, like all this, like this is ridiculous. I need to get my life together, and then you're just like so overwhelmed with that. And I think people always say like, oh, add small things in or whatever, and I've always tried to do that, and it's literally never worked. But I think fixing your sleep schedule, like it kind of clicks it into place, and obviously that's hard, but I think you have to think about like all of these things that you want to do as like of equal importance. Like you even just write down on a piece of paper like different categories in your life that you are feeling like is taking away from your general quality of life, and then make a plan about how to fix it. And even if it's as simple as like putting your phone downstairs, that fixes two problems in one. Like if you're on your phone all the time, you can't be on your phone at night, first of all, and it's gonna help you go to sleep better. But yeah, that's just one thing that I did, and honestly, I can say it's really changed my life, and it wasn't even like I've been doing that for so long. Like I think back to freshman and sophomore year, and my sleep was like prime. Like I was never, but I also had my phone downstairs, and then junior year I was like, oh, listen, I have to like, I don't know what I was thinking, but I was just like, it's not a big deal. Like I'll sleep the same. But I mean, guys, the doctors don't really lie about that type of stuff.
But okay, here's my question to you. You're very good with your routine. What happens when your routine is broken? Based on like maybe a vacation, something just like a zigger-zagger.
Yeah. So I think that's like one thing that every single time I've tried to like implement a routine. Because honestly, I think just my personality type is so hard to find a routine. And I think the number one thing that's going to help you stick to a routine is being okay with not sticking to the routine for like a day or a week or whatever, and knowing that your routine, like there's still value in doing those practices. Like for me, let's see, like when I go on vacation, I'm like, okay, you're going on vacation. It's going to be like a week. Go on vacation for a week. And if you have like habits that you do throughout the day, like find other ways to do them. Like there's some habits that you don't have to break. Like, listen, if I go on vacation, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be staying up later or whatever. Then make like one of your other habits your priority. So like if I say usually I put more of a priority for like sleeping a certain amount. Then when I go on vacation, I'm like, okay, I know that I'm not going to sleep as much. So on vacation, I'll be like, okay, instead of focusing on my sleep routine, let me just focus on like my water goal or something. Like that.
Okay.
And like doing that instead, because then you still have a goal to hit, and then your day can just be complete that way. And I think, but also I think, say you have a day and you're like, I'm so tired and I'm just not going to do this. I think you have to give yourself enough grace to be like, listen, and understand that the only, this is so cheesy, but like the only thing that is constant in our lives is the change. Yeah. Like every single day should not be the same.
Yeah.
Like your days are different, and that's fine. And like if there's one day where you're like, listen, I'm just not going to do the routine today, like that's fine. But if that's every day, then maybe you're just not in the right routine. Like it's okay. You don't have to. And I would say another thing is never compare your routine to someone else's routine, because everyone's different.
So valid.
Like no one should be like going online and being like, okay, this is what people do, because that's honestly fake.
Yeah. Like
you have to give yourself enough grace to be like, okay, today I didn't really have a routine. And notice how that makes you feel. Like if you're just someone that's, your routine is not following any routine, and that's what makes you happy, like do that. Like, you don't follow someone else's routine because you think that their life is perfect. Just try to find your own until you're like, okay, well, I'm kind of happy with, like, how my day is going.
Yeah. I love how, like, self-aware you are and how you've, like, found your routine. And I also love that whether it's your sleep or your water, it's something you have control over. Like, that is a key aspect that I noticed, and I really love that because I was trying to find my equivalent to your sleep and water, and I think mine is my schedule. Like, my calendar app and we tight. Like, I have such peace in mind knowing what's coming up every hour on the hour.
Yeah.
And I lose it every time there's a vacation.
Yeah.
Like, it is bad. Like, I'll cry at least once when I don't have, like, February, April break, Christmas break, Thanksgiving. Like, the fact that I don't know what's coming or the fact that I have, like, I don't know, 8 hours a day that isn't planned, I lose it.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing. I think, like, one trick that I use that, because I think that we all know how it feels where, like, you get to Sunday and you have this huge to-do list and you don't do any of it. And just, like, the stress that comes with that, especially when you're in school. So we know how those days feel. And even, like, if in those days where you're like, oh, I'm doing nothing today because I'm just so burnt out, I think that causes a little bit more burnout when then you add on the stress of, like, I didn't do anything today. Like, tomorrow's going to be hard. Think about those days, and then think about if you did nothing, right? But you had your own routine of, like, little things that you did that would make it not, like, you could do nothing without doing nothing.
Okay.
Like, for me, there's a big difference between, like, sitting on your phone all day and then just feeling that stress because you're like, okay, like, I just wasted so much time. My screen time's so high. Like, what was I doing? What was I thinking? And just blaming yourself for all of that. And then being like, planning it. Like, planning a day where you do nothing is different than, like, letting things get away from you. And I think if you have, like, a burnt out day, just maybe do one thing. Like, say you had a crazy week and you need to do something for yourself, but maybe that something for yourself is like, oh, I feel like that's not productive if I just take an hour and not do anything. Maybe just read a book for an hour or, like, go to sleep for an hour. And then, like, that's a promise to yourself, like, oh, I'm going to do that. And if you do that and you keep doing that, it kind of solidifies, like, okay, like, I got this. You know what I mean? And like, knowing that things are going to be there for you, like, the next day. Like, just because you don't get something done, like, when you plan to do it. And that's, I think, kind of what we were talking about earlier, but, like, giving yourself grace. Say, like, today I really have, like, big goals and, like, I want to do whatever. Sometimes that's a little bit overwhelming. And say I don't really get to those goals, I'm like, okay, well, maybe today is just, like, not my day. And I can get back at it tomorrow. Or, like, I can get back at it later. Like, I think one thing, and that's, like, one thing that I think ask other people, too. Like, obviously, don't take on a routine that someone else has made because it works in specific ways for their life. But, like, hey, listen, I'm struggling with this. Like, what do you do when this happens? I think that kind of can bring you a little bit of peace of mind and, like, okay, I'm struggling with, like, what to eat for breakfast. Like, ask around. I do that all the time. Just, like, asking, like, what's your guys' favorite breakfast? Yeah, I mean, your friends can honestly help you so much to, like, make a routine better for yourself. Or even have shared goals. Like, say Emma and I really want to get into, like, I don't know, what do we want to get into?
Pilates.
We want to get into Pilates. Em and I should schedule a class together and do it together. Like, have some buddies in it. And even if it doesn't have to be your whole schedule. Like, that's one thing for me is that I like to kind of do my routine by myself. And those goals that I set have honestly been really recent. Like, I've only been doing this for 20 days. Like, and I think that's fine. And it's always subject to change, too. And I think that honestly, think back to when you were a kid and the things that you did in your life, like those little habits and interests. I think we've lost a little bit of that because, like, you can just let your mind go and just go on your phone and just waste time. But that time for yourself, like the decompressing time that we have to take, that we usually take on our phone, like it doesn't have to go away. But if that going on your phone like is going to stress you out, then find something else that kind of is that same feeling and just apply that. Even if that's the only thing that you do, because it doesn't have to be the same every day in order to work.
Yeah.
Like it just has to work for that day.
Yeah. I definitely think the phone is such a root of problems. It just becomes like a habit, or like you don't even think about it. It's just like, oh, look at this little device I can just pick up and like waste time on.
Yeah, and it's not always a bad thing. Like, I think sometimes like I get excited to just not do anything and just be on my phone and just honestly schedule that time to just not do anything. But I think when you have things to do and it's like something that you use for like, or something that I use for procrastination is when it gets a little bit more stressful for me, because I'm more like, when I was a kid, I was more of like a really anxious kid. Like I hated going to school. Like I would not go to school, and I would make myself like sick before I went to school, so I didn't have to go. And then when I moved here, and I came here for 4th grade. That was the first year that my family was here. Obviously, going to a new school when you're younger, like I was still very, very anxious. But then I think going to school with the same people kind of brings you to a place where you kind of know what it's going to be like every year. And as the years went on, I was able to like better identify when I'm feeling anxious. And so I think that that's a big part of like letting yourself feel that way, but like understanding, oh, I feel anxious right now. Like, I don't really know what's going on. That kind of helps bring it back to like, what can I do?
Yeah.
Because then in the winter, the whole reason that I even started being like, okay, I gotta lock in and do some of this stuff was because this winter I had no routine. I was so anxious. I was on my phone all the time. Like I was really struggling with that. And I felt like my eating habits were so irregular because I just didn't have my life scheduled. Like I'd be like, okay, well maybe I could do this. And I was trying to be like really intuitive with everything that I was doing, but I had never really practiced that before. So like obviously that's really hard to implement like with eating and sleeping and whatever if you've never really done it before. And I was like, I had this mindset where I was like, okay, well, whatever I feel like, I'm just gonna listen to my body. Like if I'm stressed, I'm just gonna put away my schoolwork. And if I'm tired, I'm just gonna go to sleep. Or if I'm hungry, like I'm just gonna eat. And that honestly ended up being the worst thing I could do because it was winter, so it was like dark, and
Seasonal depression.
Yes, seasonal depression. I was like either literally starving all day because I make myself so busy, and I'll be like, okay, well, like I'm hungry. I don't really know what to eat, like because I hadn't planned like any of my meals, and like I hadn't really thought about like, okay, well, this is when I have time to cook, like, and then I was basically not sleeping because it's hard to be intuitive with like when to put your phone away because it's addictive. And so I would just be up on my phone all the time, and I literally had it right next to my head, so you could just go on it if you can't sleep, but that doesn't really help with like going to sleep. And then with my schoolwork, I think that I had kind of disregarded that it's like a job that like you have to kind of get it done. So anytime I was tired because I wasn't sleeping, I'd be like, I'm just gonna go to bed, and I would put it away. So I would procrastinate my schoolwork so much and get like the pent up stress from that. And so then that led to not sleeping either. So now I'm tired and hungry all the time, depressed, and addicted to my phone. So I'm like, okay, all of this could be prevented by a schedule. And so I'm like, okay, all I'm gonna do is eat breakfast every day, and that requires me to wake up at a certain time. So I have to go to sleep. So all I did 3 things first. I went to sleep and got at least 8 hours. I ate breakfast, and then I'm like, okay. Once I had that going for like a week, I was like, okay, I'm gonna add in one more thing. So I have like a 32-ounce Hydro Flask. So I'm like, okay, if I can just go to sleep, wake up, eat breakfast, and drink a whole Hydro Flask before lunch, that's a good day. And so I just did that, and I'm like, okay, like I can do that. And I was feeling better because I had taken that stress off.
Yeah.
And I think not including like school in one of my goals took that stress of like, I just
Good
separated my habits with school.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so like I wasn't putting my stress on getting things done in like the academic sense.
Yeah.
Because I think that's one reason why this worked is that I'm a senior and I'm not a junior or like any other grade, because we're kind of winding down. Obviously there's a lot of work. There's more than I thought.
There is.
Which I think that's why like not doing it is crazy for me, because I was just like, you can't check out yet. It's only December. So I had to kind of reevaluate what I was doing. But I think like having those moments where you're like, okay, this is not working for me. What can I do? Like that was kind of the first time that I felt that. And before that, I'd never really been like accepting if I was having a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would just be like, okay, well, you kind of just have to put your head down and do it.
So
there's really
self-conscious
nothing you
of
could do. Yeah, but also I think that's another thing, like understanding, okay, that didn't happen for me until I was in my senior year. Like, if you're feeling that way ever, like know with time things will click, and you kind of have to like live when it's hard. Like you have to live that in order to like make any changes at all. And that's really difficult because sometimes you're just like, I just can't do this anymore. But like the next day will still come.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
How do you think you're going to navigate like the schedule you have now, or adapt it, or mitigate anxieties come like post-grad? Because that's another whole big life
that's
change.
definitely another thing. Yeah, I think with the whole anxiety thing, you for me, I kind of know that I am an anxious person, and have been. But honestly, sometimes it really surprises me, like how that kind of comes up. I think it's more like just like internal for me, because I feel like at school I'm pretty relaxed, and I feel like socially it's not really like that type of anxiety. It's more like anxiety about like getting things done and like to-do lists and stuff. So I think just knowing that there's always going to be one or a few things that I'm going to have to do, but every day there's going to be those type of things. And there's always going to be some things that I want to do. And putting the have-tos in like a want-to-do sandwich is kind of what's worked for me. Like if I can dedicate 1 hour to like say what I'm doing now. I really am enjoying doing my little walking habit. So if I can dedicate 1 hour to that, then like I got 1 hour of doing something that I want to do, and then after that I can dedicate 1 hour to like doing my schoolwork. Like I can owe that to myself, even if I hate it. I can do it.
Yeah.
Because not doing it is going to be like hard for me. But I think like in the coming years, like obviously schoolwork is still going to be a thing for me to do. So I think knowing that I have priorities and being able to kind of organize that is always going to be a struggle. But it's like something that we can kind of do something about. Like when we do it and how we do it is kind of up to us, especially because we have so much more free time, like in college. I think not letting it go to waste, like not wasting your whole day because you have 1 hour that you need to get like schoolwork done. And for me, like, I know I'm not going to want to dedicate that first hour to schoolwork. But if I can do that, then the rest of my day is basically a free day. You know what I mean? Time management is actually, it's like a life hack that I didn't unlock until like this year.
I love that. This has been so insightful. I've learned so much about you, but also just having healthy habits. Like, is there any final thing you'd like to say to the viewers who might be underclassmen and navigating high school?
Okay. This may be a little bit controversial. And like, obviously,
please do it. This is a controversial podcast.
Yes, exactly. Okay. I know that people always say like, do as many things as you can, like reach out, hang out with people all the time. You don't need to hang out with people all the time.
Real.
Some of my best hours of my day is just by myself. Like, don't be afraid to be alone. And understand that being alone is not always being lonely. And obviously identify, like, if you are lonely, you know, you gotta change something up. But to be alone sometimes is just being mindful.
Yeah.
Like, even in a group. And I think just building the self-awareness while you're in high school is honestly going to be a game changer for later on, because it's going to help you so much to feel more confident in yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I think people don't really, sometimes people like, oh, I'm confident and like, I'm going to be with a group all the time. But I think feeling confident enough to hang out with yourself
so real
for like however much time you can is honestly awesome. Just enjoy yourself and be grateful for who you are, because like, you can do awesome things.
I love that. You can do awesome things. That's what we're leaving you with today.